All right, everybody, welcome to another installment of Purveyors of Health. We do this every Thursday, typically at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern. My name is Angelo.
And hi, I'm Mallory.
All right, Mallory, what do we got on tap today with the Purveyors?
Today we have Rob Soul. He is a children's chess coach. He's been doing this for about 10 years. He tried a few other things like guitar lessons and teaching basic softball and baseball and writing. And now this is his passion. It's very fascinating to have dove into some of the stuff he wrote about how he approaches teaching chess. So I'd love for you to go ahead and get into that, Rob, because I find it very unique.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for starters. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here and speak today for you guys. I love what you do, promoting holistic health and growth. And I'm glad there's people out here doing this kind of thing and people meeting like this, because I think the toxicity around us right now is at an all-time high. And we have to be mindful of allowing that to creep in and mold us and point us in a direction that doesn't serve us. And so, it's great to be here, especially thank you to Mallory. She was my liaison. And then Victoria, who I mentioned before, she put me in contact with you so that I could be here today. So what I want to share today is a story that kind of illustrates what I call the twin fallacies of chess. I started teaching chess in 2010. A friend of mine owned an after-school chess program in the Bay Area, which is where I was living at the time, and invited me on board, and him and his partner hired me as their chess guy. In fact, my email address personally is still chess guy based on that on Gmail. And anyway, they promoted me in their marketing materials as the champ, which was a nod to, I had recently won a class championship at the US Open. And so that was what they saw me as, was the chess guy that was going to like push them over the top. I wasn't comfortable with it. But worse than that was, worse than the marketing material, they turned out to just want another teacher. They were not actually looking to develop their curriculum, which is what I had been told. They never listened to a single suggestion I gave them, and they were just teaching things wrong. They were teaching concepts and terminology incorrectly, and I couldn't do it anymore. And they wouldn't correct it, so I had to go. And then I spent several years working for some other chess companies, but that revealed some flaws in the way that chess is being taught everywhere. There's very few programs like the one that was teaching things incorrectly, thankfully, but the vast majority have accepted this big fallacy of chess, and that it's this magical way that kids can learn. Just teach a kid to play chess and then his brain grows and grows, right? And this is actually something that educators believe and other chess coaches, and it's just, nothing could be further from the truth. I taught chess at more than one school where the kids were taught the rules and some basic strategies, and then they were kind of left to their own devices. And I remember week after week after week, none of them would ever improve, or very little. And it seemed crazy to me because at the time I had bought into that whole mindset too, that whole idea. That was the perception that I understood as well, and that a lot of people do. And so it took me a while to figure out what was going on. And I talked it over at the time with my wife. And I finally figured out that chess has to be taught with a bent toward applying the skills away from the board. You have to introduce that idea in order to get any benefit out of it. And the reason that the kids in that class were making no progress, it came down to the fact that they weren't playing to win. And I know there's like this whole PC thing about winning and all that these days, but what I mean is that they weren't playing with any goal in mind at all. And the goal of chess is to checkmate the opponent, which is what wins the game. A lot of them were making like moves with their pawns to put together little zigzag designs on the board because it was cute. And that's all well and good if that's your goal from chess, but then why use chess for something that's artistic like that? You can do a lot better than zigzag designs on a chessboard if you want to make something pretty. Anyway, the parents are expecting their kids to come out of that with something, and really all they're doing is just kind of pushing the pieces around. And so, it kind of dawned on me that the chess skills that we want to get to our kids, I guess, for lack of a better term, those advantages don't transfer automatically. Those skills don't transfer automatically, and they never even transfer at all if they're never learned in the first place. So you have to teach that kind of stuff. And the kinds of chess skills that lead to cognitive development, like planning and decision making and all the great stuff and the critical thinking and everything, those are the skills that you use when you're playing to win. You've got to play to win and at the same time not care whether you win or lose. And that's the hard part. And like I say, somehow it became really un-PC in our society to want to win. And I'm not sure where that came from. I was an athlete my whole life, and into my 30s, I still competed, and I compete to win. And I watched up, guys like Michael Jordan and Joe Montana, Mike Tyson, Pete Rose. Those were guys that I watched play the sports that I loved and the sports that I played. I didn't box, but those guys, they were the winners. And I had a culture of winning infused in me from that. And just like those guys, I like to win and I hate to lose. But the thing that I had to learn then was how to teach kids, this kind of life lesson, I guess. You have to play to win, and you have to care whether you win or lose, but not care about the result. Not care whether you won or lost once the game ends. And so, in other words, the effort that you put in, has to be toward an end, toward a goal. But at the end of the day, it's a game of chess, and it doesn't really matter if you won or lost. And that's hard to do. That's a hard thing it's hard to do as a person. It's hard to teach to kids, but it's a really important lesson, I think. And I came up with a phrase anyway for my kids, which is losing is learning. And I tell them I've lost more games than I can count. And the world champion right now, Magnus Carlsen, loses games. You can't be afraid to lose. If you're afraid to lose, then you might as well not play. You got to go find a different hobby, because losing is learning. And what that leads to is, number one, kind of you have to learn something from your losses, okay? But really, the more I guess esoteric point of it is, if you can take action on the things that will lead to success, whether it's guaranteed or not, knowing that you might lose and you can still act exactly the same way no matter what, those actions are the things that are going to propel you toward success. And so if you're going to play life to win, you have to do the things you need to do, but not care about the outcome. And once you get an outcome, whatever it may be, good or bad or whatever, win or lose, or however you want to put it, there's something to be learned from it. And you can come back better the next time. And that's where the gold is. And that's the kind of thing that I needed to start to teach, and I knew it. Because in the same way as the cognitive improvements that parents expect and educators, laud about chess, they can only come from playing to win and then going over your games, whether you won or lost, to figure out what you needed to make different choices and to make improvements for next time. And those things need to be taught along with the chess. And it's just most that I've talked to, most people I've talked to, chess coaches, doesn't matter, anybody, just don't see it that way. So I got fed up, teaching with all these other companies, and I developed and launched Kids in Chess. And when I first started out, I had a contract to teach as a volunteer in the San Jose libraries. It was a summer program. I was supposed to teach 6 free classes, one class a week at 7 different branches in the area. I had double bookings a couple of days where I went from one to the other. And I put together a bunch of worksheets, and I taught the classes a big success. I taught the first class at each branch, and I went back the second week, and there was a waiting list at all but one of them to get in. The program director pulled me aside, and she's like, "This is amazing. We have to drag people in off the street to do this kind of stuff. So people like what you're doing," which was cool. It was great to hear, but As I went on to teach those same classes other places, and started to kind of grow my company, the whole time I just kind of felt like there wasn't really anything special about what I was doing. I was teaching beginners how to play chess. You could pick that up off of YouTube. I was doing it my way, and I emphasized the approach to playing to win that I described, all that kind of stuff. But nothing that I was teaching was anything that you couldn't get from reading the little one-page thing that comes with a cheapo chess set, that you buy at Walmart or something, with the plastic pieces and a fold-up board. It's got a little sheet, most of them, and it says the rules of chess. And I wasn't really teaching anything beyond that. I was making it understandable, and I was helping, but I knew that if I was really going to reach kids and teach them the skills that I wanted them to have, that they needed, and that parents were looking for, then I had to come up with a new approach. And I stopped teaching in the Bay Area. I moved back down here to San Diego, where I live now, and I started to draw up something new, which wasn't easy. I started over. I had to start over on my own lessons and my curriculum I had created. But I recreated Kids in Chess with a new approach, and I blended mindset skills and success strategies, which are two areas that I study pretty much daily. And I started to put that all together at the chessboard and meld all three of those. And so my students learn chess, and they also get a lot more out of it than they could, I think, anywhere else. I know a number of other chess instructors, and none of them are doing this. My goal is to work with as many kids as I can, and I'm one of those people who, I believe in leaving a legacy. And this is the way I feel like I can do it. I have a daughter of my own now. She's 7. I don't know one day if she's going to be like one of those people who's credited with changing the world. Okay. But collectively, our kids will change the world. Okay. The world they live in is going to be different than ours. One way or another, for better or for worse. They're going to change it. And so that led me to kind of I guess you'd call it a manifesto, my one sentence kind of through line of everything that I do now, and the shift that I made in my company. So my goal is to change the world one checkmate at a time. And that's kind of what I made my tagline, the kids that are going to make strides in our society and in our culture, and the ones that are going to be recognized as the world changers, are the ones who are going to have leadership skills, cognitive skills, but also the skills like persistence of effort and determination to get to the goal that you had set, and not letting anybody tell you otherwise, or stop you in any way. And again, that is something that can be learned from chess, but it has to be taught. So anyway, while it's true that I go through all this, and you might be surprised to hear me say now that playing to win is important, but the number one rule for me is to have fun. All right. Chess is a game. Okay. Kids play games because they're fun. So it should be fun for you. And if it's not, then you should find something else, because you're not going to be that interested in it in order to again, get any of the stuff out of it. And so I joke around with my kids a lot. I try and keep them laughing. I do some other things to keep it fun. But this kind of leads me to this other fallacy of chess that I haven't mentioned yet. But there's the magic bullet theory, if I can borrow a conspiracy theory term, that chess is this magic bullet for learning. But there's also, to me, the more disturbing idea of all, and that is that chess is a sign of intelligence. And I cringe when I tell people I'm a chess coach, or that I play chess. I just tell them I play chess, and a lot of them come back, "Oh, you must be smart," and it drives me nuts. And this one again, though, is perpetuated by the chess community, and it's an ego thing for a lot of chess players. Again, I've known thousands of chess players. I've known at least probably 50 chess coaches. I've hired 2 myself when I was training and when I was playing in major tournaments. By and large, every single one of us thinks we're the smartest guy in the room. That's one reason that we play in tournaments, is to figure out who really is the smartest guy in the room. But that idea is complete nonsense when you get down to chess itself. And I'm really going to pull back the blinders on chess now and share with you. And I'm not saying that people who play chess are unintelligent, okay? So don't get it twisted, but chess is nothing more than applied knowledge, okay? I'm one of the rare grown men who does not know what to do with a car. If you pop the hood and have me look at the engine, I have like a rough idea of what some of the parts are called. I probably would fail a quiz on where they're located, or probably even what they look like in terms of shape. Like if you ask me to fix a car, I'm toast. I have no idea how to do it. I need a mechanic to do that because I haven't learned how. I never learned anything about how a car engine works. There was one time when I was like 8 years old, I think, my dad got me a model and we put it together. It was like a V6 engine or something. And I remember that. I remember building that model with my dad, but I don't remember anything about how the engine worked, you know? So when my car breaks down, I need a mechanic because he knows what he's doing. And he's been trained and he's spent 20 plus years in a lot of cases tearing apart engines and putting them back together. And he loves it. And he has a specialized knowledge that I don't have. And if we sat down at a chessboard together after we fixed my car, I'd probably beat the crap out of him in 10 moves. But it has nothing to do with whether he or I are smart at all. It has to do with the 20 plus years that I've spent studying patterns and sequences and strategies and tactics and all the things that go into playing great chess. Just like he studied all the things that go into being a great mechanic. And so chess is not for smart people. Chess is for everybody. And a lot of people also believe, by the way, that like a grandmaster, the highest level of achievement in chess you can get, the reason they're so much better is because they can see 15 moves ahead all the time and they always know what's going to happen. It's total garbage. The times that you calculate a sequence that long, or even 5 moves deep, is really, really rare. And when that happens, the reason you're able to is because along the way, there's a series of forced moves where one of the players literally has only one legal move and can't make a choice. So that makes it a lot easier to calculate further. But most of the time, anything you need to know is figured out looking 2 or 3 moves ahead, and that's it. And by the time you get to the 3rd move, it's likely that the other player is going to do something you didn't figure out anyway. So even if you get that far without that happening, you'll get to the 3rd move and then you'll have a whole new situation to evaluate. And that's where the grandmaster really makes himself a grandmaster. It's pattern recognition. There's been researchers that have estimated that a grandmaster knows the ins and outs of around roughly 100,000 patterns in chess. A candidate master, on the other hand, so that's like down here, knows about 10,000. So that jump to grandmaster is tenfold. And the average player who doesn't even play in tournaments at all, well below 500. A lot of players, casual players, most of them are under 100. And so all that is to say that a grandmaster is so good because he's seen so many situations. And so many of those situations are similar to the one he's in already. And so he kind of has like a virtual pointer lighting up the area of the board that's important and where he should concentrate. He already knows what's going on. And then when he looks at that area, he can see instantly a lot of the underlying tactical patterns. Again, it's all patterns. So a grandmaster spends very little time actually assessing the situation and most of his or her time calculating out a few specific lines based on the strategic ideas that they see. They spend all of their time, in other words, figuring out what's their best option. And lesser players have to study the position first to even get their bearings. And then their judgment of the position might be incorrect. It might be unclear even to them. The grandmaster has certainty in his evaluation. And all that is the result of study and experience. And so if there's one thing that you take from this today, understand, please, the idea of chess being a sign of intelligence is very dangerous. Because not only are we labeling someone as smart or intelligent or whatever label we're putting on them, and thereby implicitly labeling others who don't play chess as not as smart, which is bizarre to me, but we're also ignoring the very thing that any one of us is capable of that leads to chess skill and leads to skill in any endeavor, really, which is the ability to learn and the ability to apply what you've learned. And
Rob,
that's
can I ask
probably
you a quick question?
yeah, of course.
That's great insight, man. I love what you're saying right now. This is some really juicy content. And but I want to ask you, like, what about someone like Rain Man or somebody that's like a savant that, like, they can tell you, say, give them a date like 20 years in the future, they'll tell you what day of the week it is or something like that. Somebody's brain operates on that level. That
Right.
would probably give somebody a leg up in this kind of thing if their brain configured like that, right?
It could, again, if they were to take the time to look into it. For instance, if you talking about Rain Man, one of the great, I love the movie, by the way, but one of the things that he kind of uses as his coping mechanism is the Who's on First routine. It could have been any routine, it could have been anything, and savants and other people in that kind of category, I guess, or whatever you want to say about that, often have some kind of coping mechanism, that they use. And it could be anything, but for him, it was Who's on First, and he knew the baseball, all the players' stats on all the baseball cards and all that kind of thing, because that's what he spent time doing, I would imagine. I don't know, because I don't know. I've never worked with anybody on that level at all. So, I hesitate to really even answer. But my guess is, that could be a leg up, again, because it's specialized knowledge. But then you also have to have the ability to apply it. And so, somebody who's a savant, like, the Who's on First routine was a reaction by him. It was something that it wasn't something that necessarily served him, except to help him feel more comfortable in the moment. And so the application of it was very specific and was almost automatic for him. And so that would be the area where I think probably would be the biggest differentiation would be, yes, the skill you might have that knowledge, but now how do you apply it? So again, just guessing, but that's my take on that, I guess.
Thanks, man. That makes sense.
Of course. Yeah. So anyway, I just want to, I feel like the biggest lesson to be gained from chess, and I emphasize it with my kids every single lesson, is that this really comes down to the ability to learn and the ability to apply what you've learned. And if you can do those things, you can be as good as you want to be, and I mean prolifically, like world-changing good at anything. Whether it's chess, car repair, business, you want to be a state senator. I mean, the need to learn and apply what we've learned is paramount, and it's got to be taught. And so I think it's important to see chess for what it really is, precisely because it's a fabulous demonstration of applied knowledge gone wrong. Like, it's applied knowledge that has transcended and now given off this illusion and this air of intellect that really is just smoke and mirrors. And it's hard work and study paying off is what you're seeing. And it's interesting to me that a chess player wouldn't want pats on the back for that, and instead wants to just be seen as intelligent. Anyway, the other thing that kind of correlates to that is this idea of failure, or as I don't even use the word failure with my kids, setbacks is what I call them. And I think that that might sound cliche to some people, I get it, but it's necessary, I think, to reframe verbally things like that, and especially with kids. If kids could grow up without ever hearing the word failure, I think they'd be a lot better off, and having just no concept of it. But anyway, with my kids, I talk about setbacks, and I talk about, it's funny, a lot of kids nowadays that I teach, and also my own daughter, really into Roblox, which is now hitting the exchange as like a $50 billion company or something, I don't even know. But Roblox is this video game, for those who don't know, and one of the most popular games or forms of game is what's called an obby, which is short for obstacle course. And so it's got like 100 levels or 150 levels or whatever. And I had this conversation with my daughter, and then I kind of realized, I could teach this to my kids too. But these obbies, a lot of times you play with your friends or whatever, and then you have to pass each level and get to the checkpoint. checkpoint, 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 and eventually you get through all the levels, right? Well, I asked her, I said, what happens if you're playing with Anna and she gets to like level 35 and you're stuck on like level 29? And, so she's like there, like you could get to her, but you're stuck and you just can't get past it. And you've tried and tried and tried and tried and tried, and you can't get past level 29. And then I go, do you like shut it off and stop playing with Anna? And she's like, no. And I said, what do you do? She goes, I get through it. And I said, yeah, exactly. And you get to the next level, right? And she says, yeah. And I told her, I said, you know what? Perfect. That's life. She's 7, so she didn't really get it. But life is like a giant obby. When you get to a level where you're stuck, keep going and keep trying, because what's the other choice? Turn it off and walk away? You can't do that in life. People do. And it's, it's awful that people do that, but they do, and they give up. But if you don't give up, it's like a Roblox obby is the perfect example of, if you don't give up and you just keep going and you keep that goal in your mind, you're going to get there. And it may not look the same when you get there. And you may have to do some things along the way that you weren't expecting to do, but that is the way to get there. And the only way that you won't get there is to turn it off and walk away. And so that's how failure really works. We get to decide whether we failed or not. And as long as you don't decide that you failed, you didn't fail, because you can come back the next day or the next hour or the next minute and start working toward that goal again. And so that's something that I teach my kids as well, because I think it's an important thing to go over. And then I have one more thing real quick, if you're not bored with me yet, that I had to share on my screen.
Hey, Rob, could I ask you a question?
I have a question here, Rob.
Of course, yeah. Any questions, please?
Yeah. Hey, Rob, my name's Cody. I appreciate what you do, man. I'm a substitute teacher.
Okay.
And I'm going to be a kid helper for the rest of my life. And just your structure with chess
awesome.
it's amazing. It's amazing. Yeah.
That's cool, man. Thanks.
And so my question is, what is a good age to start teaching chess? Because I have a 5-year-old daughter, and I wouldn't mind showing her some stuff, but I really don't think she grasped the concepts yet. So I guess that's my question.
Yeah, right on the border, man. I have some 5-year-old students, and I've taught some 4-year-olds. And you hear every once in a while, of course, about, the kid from wherever who's like 3 and is a chess genius, and they're on the news and stuff, which is like 1 in a billion. But yeah, I usually go 6 to 8. That's kind of my wheelhouse. To be honest, I really specialize in beginners and in giving them a good, strong foundation, because again, that was the thing that drove me nuts the most about the companies I worked for, is they had these beginners and they just weren't giving them any direction. And so that's kind of where I went, you know what, they need more than that. So.
Cool. I appreciate that, man. Thank you.
Yeah, man, for sure. When she's 6, look me up.
Yeah, no, I'll look you up right after this, man. I appreciate everything
man,
you're saying.
for sure.
Absolutely.
Cool. Yeah. Anyway, so Angelo, I have like a I don't know, a picture to share, I guess. I don't know how to do that except when I'm the host of the meeting. So
I did make you a co-host, so you should be able to.
Oh, okay.
Share here.
Oh, right on. Yeah, perfect. Perfect. Okay. I just don't know how this is going to show up at first, but that's okay. Here we go. Whoop. Okay, so this is not going to show up at all. Hang on. Sorry, bear with me for a second here. I'm going to stretch this out and do this. Okay. Anyway, so this thing here circulated recently on my social media, and actually a friend of mine texted it to me. And I know it is intended to be funny, but I want to point this out because, number one, I wrote one back, as you can see, which the point to show you this is not to show you that I'm an awesome haiku writer, because I'm clearly not, and it took me like 15 minutes to come up with that. You guys probably, half of you could do a lot better than this, at least without trying. But my point is that this was automatic. I read this haiku about being an adult. I'm so tired. Where did all my money go? My back is hurting. I get that's supposed to be funny, but that ain't the way I see things. And you don't have to accept that as your truth as you grow older. And so many of us do that's why this is funny. And so I wrote back and I created my own. And like I say, the point, and I edited it a couple times, and the mic drop thing's just my sense of humor. But I wrote that as an automatic reaction. I didn't read the haiku. Well, the first thing I did was count the syllables to make sure it was actually a haiku, because you know the internet and people circulating things. But it's a legit haiku. So then I started writing one back, and that was my instinct, because that's how I see the world. And it bothered me that people see the world this way and just accept it, because that's what being an adult is. And so I'm like, no, man, you can do whatever you want to do. You can go to the gym every day. You can not have all your money go everywhere and you don't know. You can be energized. It's a choice. And the circumstances of our lives, and I'll stop the sharing, but the circumstances of our lives are our creation. I can't figure out how to stop it. There it is. Boom. Anyway, the circumstances that we experience in life, we created them. They didn't happen to us. And that's hard for a lot of people to think about and a lot of people to face. And it took me a long time to face it. And I was not comfortable facing that for a while myself, because what that means, of course, is that whatever you're unhappy with, you messed it up. You're the one. The person in the mirror is the person who's responsible for that. And that's hard. But then you get to the other side of that once you've accepted that, and you decide that the cool part is that now you get to do things differently, and you get to see things differently, and you get to react differently, and you get to choose. Because you chose that and you don't like it, then you get to choose something else now. But until you sit down and you really face yourself and realize that, you don't get to that point where you actually can. So anyway, that's it. That's all I have, except for answering questions from people. I really appreciate you guys listening and hanging out, and I hope it was at least useful for somebody here, besides Cody with his daughter, who I'll see soon. Anyway, thank you, everybody.
That's great, man. You remind me of when I was in 5th grade, the first time I ever learned to play chess. We had this chess club in like before middle school, and there was one kid who was the chess master's son, and he would go around and beat all of us like one move at a time, and we'd all lose to him. And it was like quick too. Like I was like, okay, yep. I'm stupid. That was the thought. I'm a dummy, right? So I see what you're saying, man. Like repetition is the mother of skill, right? So
yeah,
you know, it's like I play cribbage. Like I've been playing cribbage with my mother and my grandfather for a long time, and so
love cribbage.
I can see, you know, my 15s. I can see all these hands. I can count the hand when I see it. I'm not a math genius by any stretch, but it's just, you know, playing so many times, you just know all
it's
the
cribbage. Yeah, it's patterns.
So good info. Yeah, man. Yeah. Thank you. Anybody else want to jump in here and ask a question or offer some of your insights to Coach Rob?
The other day, I was I felt like I was called to start playing chess. Where do I start? Where should I? Yeah, that's my question.
Wow, great question.
And it's really weird that we're having this Zoom, and that you're a chess coach.
That's life, man. It works like that, you know?
Exactly.
Yeah, for sure. Stuff comes your way that you need at that time. Yeah, so actually right there in the chat, chess.com is a very good app. There's a lot of free material on there, and if you want to, I don't even know what the premium is, but it's not much. It's like I don't know, it's like $5 a month or something. I have no idea. But it's cheap, and you can unlock everything. And there's all kinds of lesson material there. But another place to go, a great place to go, is YouTube. YouTube has a ton of stuff. And if I may recommend, in particular, one of my favorites of all time, who I actually know and have worked with, a gentleman named Dan Heisman, who is related to the Heisman of the Heisman Trophy fame. And it is Heisman, not Heisman. But anyway, Dan Heisman, if you look him up on not only YouTube, but if you go to his website, he is fantastic for adult beginners. And he's got just a ton of material that's all free. And then he sells chess books and stuff too. But so that's where I would start.
Cool, man. So some thoughts on Bobby Fischer. What do you know? I've seen a few like documentaries about him. He's kind of like a very illusory figure in history, and his whole thing about playing that match in the island Grimsey off the north coast of Iceland, and there's a museum there. Have you ever been there? What's your takes on Bobby Fischer? Just curious.
I haven't, unfortunately. I would love to go someday. I've not been to Europe once, so I really need to go. But yeah, Fischer was a genius of the chessboard, and was one of those people that, they exist, I think, in all areas and in all walks of life, where they just get so into and so consumed with what it is that they do that everything else just starts to not make sense anymore. And he had a hard time making sense of the world. And as he got older, especially, and his brain started to deteriorate, and he became very, very, very political, very, very polarizing. Said a lot of really hateful things, anti-Semitic, and all kinds of things like that. Kind of faded out into obscurity, unfortunately, as sort of a mad genius. And it's sad that that kind of thing happens. And nowadays, I think we're better equipped for dealing with something like that. But at the time that this was going on with him, I mean, this was the 80s and the 90s, and mental health is something everybody was afraid of. It wasn't something that we looked at to try and help people. Somebody's talking to themselves at the bus stop, and your mom grabs you by the arm and yanks you the other way and says, "Stay away," and you rush over across the street to stay away from that guy. That was the time. And now, even though there are still people who do that, sadly, thankfully, mostly it's changed. And we understand mental health, and that not everybody is of full capacity or right mind, and we want to give them help. So that's great, but he wasn't around then. And so, again, he just sort of disappeared. And then he literally became reclusive and disappeared for 20 years or so. And that's when the movie Searching for Bobby Fischer was created. He really tremendously contributed to the game of chess. And there's even a form of chess now, which was his creation. He didn't create it by himself. He worked with a couple other people, but it's called Chess 960, and you can play it on chess.com and other places. And it's really fun. And it's named that 960 because there's 960 possible different starting positions instead of just the one main one. You randomize it. When he created it, he called it Fischer Random Chess. And since then, it's been called Chess 960. And so the 960 possible starting positions, you don't know which one you're going to get. So all the memorization and all the opening study and all the theory that you've been looking into your whole life as a chess player is out the window. You can't use any of it. And that was his whole idea, was to level the playing field and say, okay, now you can't use all your preparation and all this stuff that you've studied and studied and studied because there's a finite number of moves in the opening that actually are any good. Now you have to figure it out. And so do I. And that was the ultimate test to him, was figuring out the board instead of using your prepared knowledge coming in. So he kind of was trying to buck the trend of, again, the whole thing being basically about how well you know the situation you're in, which comes down to how many patterns you know. Great idea. And it's been, like I say, accepted into the chess mainstream, really. There's 960 tournaments. There's a world champion in 960. It's great, and it's great fun. But that was one of his major contributions, aside from being the only American still to ever win the world championship. And he did it in the middle of the Cold War, and the Russians had dominated for 70 plus years. He took it. And then there was this catastrophic end to his reign because he wouldn't defend his title because of politics over where it was being held. In Reykjavik, Iceland. So, or maybe it wasn't Reykjavik, but I think it was. Anyway, so sorry to ramble a little bit, but you could talk, I could talk personally for hours about Fischer. So
that's gold, man. That's gold. I'm fascinated. So thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Anybody else out there have any
Yeah,
questions?
yeah, I got one more.
Yeah.
Hey, Rob, so what's your most memorable moment when you were competing?
Oh, wow. Okay. Two, I guess. So there's, let me point out as well, the winning a class championship at the US Open was phenomenal. And that's obviously like, that was the pinnacle of my achievement. That's a peak moment. But I want to explain something, because I think there's this perception of, at the end of the tournament, everybody's all crowded around, and I'm up on the main stage playing with one other guy, and there's a trophy sitting over here, and people are waiting, and somebody wins, and then all this confetti falls and lights flash, and there's a trophy and presentation. It's not like that. The World Championship is like that, because they need to make it the fanfare and all that. But when you're playing a chess tournament, it's a lot like the World Cup when you get to the last day and all the games go simultaneously so that teams can't throw the game to try and fix the standings. And it's that with chess. Every round, everybody plays at the same time. And there's hundreds of people playing. So your game ends, and there are other games going on. And those people, if that guy wins, then he ties me for the top spot or whatever, whatever place you're in. But if he loses, then I have it outright. But then over here, if this guy, all he needs is a draw, and he can tie me in the standings. So you have to wait until all of it's finished. And then the tournament director updates the standings, and then they post them. And then you get to go look and see what happened. And so that was how I found out that I had won the championship, was waiting around for hours after and waiting for a guy to come staple a piece of paper to a bulletin board and a bunch of people crowding around it. The cool thing was the check that I got for the prize winnings, which was awesome. And that was my moment that I took a picture of, and that was cool. But at that same tournament, my best I guess I don't want to say moment, but that same tournament I played, I think it was the third or fourth game of the tournament. I don't remember which, but it was the second day. And you play 2 games a day, and each game lasts 4 or 5 hours. And so I'm playing my night game, which started at 7. And I am playing a guy who's higher rated than me. And he's got an advantage, and he makes a mistake, and I have an advantage. And I'm trying to turn it into a win. And we played for almost 5 hours to a draw. And a lot of people would hear that and go, oh, I would kill myself. Are you kidding me? What a waste. No, not at all. The guy, I still talk to the guy. He's still one of my friends now. And we didn't know each other before we sat down across from each other, obviously. But we stayed for 3 more hours going over that game, talking about it with each other. So this became like a 7-hour experience with each other. But for almost 5 hours of it, we didn't speak a word to each other. And then we got to talk all about what we were thinking. It was so much fun. It was so amazing, It's so cool to have somebody, and we both admired the game, because he had this advantage and then I had, and so just that experience, that particular game is the one that that in my mind I'll always remember.
Nice, thanks, man. I appreciate that.
Yeah, man, sure. My pleasure again. This is cool. I like being able to answer questions for people, but just kind of sharing what we do. So.
What a great call, man. Unexpected. When I heard our Purveyors of Health speaker today is a kid's chess coach. I'm like, wow, that's something unexpected, right? I mean, usually we think about somebody's going to be doing something about breath work or, spiritual development, but the way you tie it into health and mindset, it's brilliant, man. So I really want to thank you so much for being our guest today. It's really a pleasure to have you on the program. Thank you, man.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question?
Certainly.
This is kind of hey, and thanks for speaking. This has been awesome. I want to kind of take a turn off chess for a second. And you said something earlier at the beginning. You said chess is like you have to have an effort towards the end, is what you said. And I love this idea of efforts towards ends, and it sounded very stoic to me. It sounded like something like Marcus Aurelius would have said in the Meditations. I was curious if you've read any of that stuff.
I not specifically, no, but I do make it like part of my daily studies. Like I have a morning routine and an evening routine, and I journal, and I do, there's a lot of those kinds of things that you pick up from personal growth. I go to personal growth seminars and things like that. And so specifically, Marcus Aurelius and meditation, that no, I haven't looked into the specifics there. But I definitely have, I encourage meditation. I do it if I don't get a chance every day, 5 days a week probably. I think, again, going back to the whole point of Purveyors of Health, the holistic approach, physical, mental, spiritual, all of it is key and is super important. And I think that having all those things in your life really is kind of what pulls it all together.
It seemed like so much of what you talked about really ties back to mindset.
Yeah.
As sort of like a tenet of holistic health, that take actions geared towards success no matter the outcome. That was a note I jotted down, something you said earlier. I just love that. Like you have a very nice way of synthesizing this stuff. I don't know. It's just, it's cool, man. I played a little bit of chess. I've dabbled. I got a couple friends who are super into it. I actually super randomly met a guy at a gig who was an older guy who played chess, and like, he was writing a book about it. I don't know whatever happened with that, but it's a really cool game. I like backgammon.
That's a good one too, man. I love backgammon. Yeah. Sheshbesh is what they call it in, in Israel, Sheshbesh. I had a girlfriend one time who, her and her family were really big into backgammon, and that's what they called it, was Sheshbesh. So yeah, but yeah, backgammon's a great game. Love it. All those strategy games, those are my jam.
So Rob,
yeah, but cool, man. Thank you.
Rob, who's some of your mentors? Like, who is some of the, maybe not personally known, but who are some people that you've kind of followed in the footsteps of or have learned a lot from in your life?
Yeah, outside of the chess world, I'm assuming, because I have mentors within the chess world, but that's just strictly related to the things they do at the board and stuff like that. And that's, that's specific to my domain. But outside of that, my first foray into, learning about myself at all, and what, we now call personal growth, I was 19. And I was super depressed and a freshman in college. And I went to a bookstore and I found Unlimited Power by Tony Robbins. And I read that book, and that set me on my path, man. And I've come and gone from Tony Robbins' teachings to others. Dean Graziosi is another one, and they actually work together now, the two of them. And other than that, Brian Tracy is another one. He lives actually local to me in Solana Beach. He's like a motivational guy, but a sales guy too, that approach, I think, of his kind of methodology of success and working hard and things like that. A life-changing book for me was when I read his book, No Excuses. If you've never read No Excuses by Brian Tracy, I highly recommend it. And then a modern day one, I guess, that not a lot of people know, his name's Tim Grover. And Tim Grover was the personal trainer to Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, Dwayne Wade, Charles Barkley, many of the greatest basketball players ever to play the game. He wrote a book called Relentless. And that's one that if you have not read, I would read that before anything. I would, or listen to the audiobook tonight. It's as far as the language and the tone, it's not everybody's cup of tea. But if you're a normal adult and you've seen and heard words like those before, you understand why he uses them, and the context he uses them in is appropriate. And it's not a book filled with a whole bunch of cuss words, don't get me wrong. But there is some colorful language in there to make a point. But anyway, I won't say any more about it except to say Tim Grover and Relentless was also one that when I read that, it was like wake up call. Like, wow, what that guy has to say is remarkable. So Yeah, so those are some.
Right on. Thank you, man. That's some good takeaways. Anybody else? We got about a few more minutes before the top of the hour, and we're going to let Coach Rob go. But if you guys have anything else you want to add, Mallory.
How many championships have you won?
That U.S. Open championship was the only major championship I won. At your local chess club, you know, you have a tournament every couple months or so, and I've won, you know, some of those here and there, and you lose plenty of those too, because you play against the same guys all the time, and you know, so it's just like I don't know, boxers or football teams or whatever. You play each other, and sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, or you fight each other. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. So. You get the same group of guys playing all the time, and you know, different guys come out on top. But that, as far as any major championships that anybody would know, that U.S. Open championship was the only one. I played in the National Open. I played in the World Open. Did not fare well, particularly in the World Open. National Open was okay, but you know, that's part of playing. And again, you can't be afraid to lose.
Yeah, what's your win streak?
What's
Go
that?
ahead. Go
What's
ahead.
your highest, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead. It's okay.
What's your highest win streak, if you can recall?
I can't, to be honest with you. I never kept track of anything like that. I would take a game. I would bring it. You write your moves down when you play tournament chess, so that, you know, number one, it's a requirement for a tournament. But number two, obviously, the benefit is you bring that game home and you study it. And so that's what I would do. I would get home from the tournament game. I would I'd shove all the moves into the computer to have it crunch all the different, you know, tactical possibilities. And then the next morning I'd wake up and I'd start going over the game with the computer's help, and analyzing. And so whether I won or lost, I didn't keep a ledger or anything like that. I just was all about the next game, and trying to improve whatever was wrong about that one. So I wish I could tell you. I don't have an answer for that.
Rob, there's so much that you spoke on that was such a unique approach and perspective on chess, because I've taught both my children how to play. One of them really loves it, and the other one is not interested whatsoever. He'll play just to like, oh, we're playing, let's play. But I like that you spoke on it not being a measure of actual intelligence, whether you were, you know, good at it or not. But you also had said something in some documents that you sent my way about chess mirroring life, and that it's a team game. I thought that was really interesting because I never really thought of chess as a team game. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, of course. I'll be brief, but because that's kind of, that one is more when we get kind of more in depth to the lessons. But the basic premise: you have 8 pawns and 8 pieces, and the pieces have the power. Your pieces are what you need to get out. A lot of people just call them all the chess pieces. Pawns are different than pieces, and that's one of the things that I teach my kids. The pieces have the power, so you need to, as the game begins, activate your pieces, meaning get them off their starting squares and get them to places that they can do things for you. And a lot of players, when they first learn the game, beginners in particular, will take out one piece and start moving it and moving it and moving it and moving it and moving it. And it'll either get captured at some point, or the other player is moving piece after piece after piece out. And now pretty soon they've got 6 pieces coming at you to attack you, and you've got one piece sitting around doing this. You're going to lose. And so you've got to incorporate your team. Your team in this case is your pieces and your pawns. You've got to be the coach or the leader, depending on your metaphor. But I use the coaching analogy because I'm a coach, and I also use a soccer analogy. Suppose you and I were playing a game of soccer, and there's 11 people on the field for each team. 9 of our players are standing over by the bench hanging out and talking about like TV shows and what they're going to do later and that kind of thing. And you and me are playing. And so one of us has to be in the goal, right? So we have a goalie now, and we have one person running around the field against the other team of 10. We're not going to win that soccer game. I don't care how good you are. I don't care who that is that your one guy is, unless it's Ronaldinho and it's a bunch of 4-year-olds that he's playing against. If it's equally matched people, which again, chess, the pieces are equally matched, you're going down. And so I teach that, and chess is a team game. You have to use your pawns and pieces together to accomplish a goal, a collective goal, and you're the coach. And so, you know, that's, you know, something that's in life is a big thing too. You know, none of us do anything on our own. My company that I've created and that I've built, yeah, it was my idea. But do you know how many people I've had along the way that have helped me with this thing, that thing, or the other? I'm here right now today because of Victoria, because I know somebody who knows somebody to get me on a call like this. You know, the things that that I do, it's great and I love it. And it's you know, it's just my big thing is that it's so accessible to anybody who wants to do this and try it, and not, I don't mean teach chess, but whatever it is that you do. And so I feel really blessed and really privileged to be able to do this kind of stuff, but it's a team effort for sure, and life is a team effort, and I feel like we need each other to make it. We need each other to win. We need each other to survive and to succeed. So the sooner that everybody gets that through their thick skulls, the better off we're all going to be. But anyway, I'm trying with the kids.
Thank you so very much, Rob. Yeah, like Angelo said, when I heard chess coach, I was like, okay, I'm open-minded. Let me see what this is all about. And when we got to talking and everything, it was just really expansive on my perspective. So thank you so much. Thank you for what you do with children. Such important work to be working with children. Thank you, Victoria, for connecting us. And thank you everybody else who joined in on the call today, and for whoever gets to see this later. It's like a fully inclusive experience that we're sharing together. So yeah.
They're sold out, bro. Yeah.
Very cool. Oh, there she is.
Trying to shop and went to a doctor's appointment, all kinds of stuff running around. But yes, thank you, Rob. Thank you for joining us. And
Yeah.
I'm glad everyone enjoyed it.
Yeah, me too. Thanks for getting me involved, and thanks for having me, Mallory and Angelo and everybody. It was a pleasure, and I had a lot of fun. So I hope everybody here did too.
Thank you so much. And I want to remind everybody here that you are a purveyor of health. Everyone here is. So if any of you guys have anything you wanted to talk about someday, talk to Mallory or myself, and we'll get you on here. Appreciate all of your time. Thanks so much to Coach Rob. This was a great episode. Thanks, man.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Great.
my pleasure. Glad it worked out. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.
You too.
Brother.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Rob.